And my dad worked in that factory very hard until the day Pearl Harbor was attacked. And he put his tools down on his workbench, and he went and enlisted in the U.S. Army and fought in all the great battles of World War II, in the European battles. And after the war, he came back. He met my mom. They got married. They had 2 boys. They moved to a little town in New Jersey called North Arlington. It's a very working-class town. It is a town, if you watch the opening credits of The Sopranos, if you've ever seen it, it is a town that is featured in those opening credits. My dad wanted us to have a better way of life, so he insisted that we study hard and get a good education. But I was a very inquisitive kid, and I wanted to know what my dad did. So I'd beg him to take me to work. And he'd say, no, 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 Rich, you have to study hard. You have to get a good education. You have to get ahead in this life. And the way you're going to get ahead is to go to university. But I was persistent. I begged my father, I want to, and we didn't have in those days, take your son or daughter to work day. It just didn't exist. But my dad had to figure out a way to deal with me. And so on Saturdays, when the factory was running overtime, he said, and he wanted me to play a musical instrument. He gave me a guitar. He gave me guitar lessons. He said, well, you have to go to a guitar lesson anyway on Saturday, so you come with me, son, to the factory. You can see where I work. Then right after work is done, it's a half-day shift at noon, we'll go off to your guitar lesson. I walked into that factory, and it was a mind-blower. I mean, this was a giant brick factory in Newark, New Jersey, filled with machines and technology and whirring and buzzing and all of these people everywhere. And I was a little kid and, holding onto my dad's leg and hands and couldn't fathom this. And he saw me fascinated by these machines. And I remember he tapped me on the shoulder. And he said, Rich, it's not the machines that make this factory great. It's the knowledge, it's the intelligence, it's the creativity of people who work here. Each and every single human being is creative. That's the challenge in Noosa. That's the challenge here. It's not about attracting the creative class. The creative class is here. 38% of your workforce already is in the creative class. It's making sure that Noosa is a place that, whether it's a small-scale manufacturing shop or more likely a service industry retail shop, a hair salon, whatever it is, that those people have the ability to make a go and use their creativity. That's the great challenge of our time, and that's the great opportunity here. Well, I said my dad made eyeglasses, and eyeglasses are sometimes they're very important in my life. By the way, Al, I have terrible eyesight. Not only do I have these eyeglasses, I have contacts in as well. I actually had to get eyeglasses, so I was very lucky that my father worked in an eyeglass factory. I was outfitted with eyeglasses at 2 years old. Now, I would have brought my other eyeglasses with me. I actually lost them. I left them on the plane. I usually travel with 2 pairs, not just because I like them, but they're illustrative. The other pair were the kind of pair that I wore when I was a young boy. We didn't have the lovely glasses like you have, these kind of glasses that I'll show you again in a moment. We had one style of eyeglasses when I was 2 in 1959. Big, black, clunky, plastic Elvis Costello eyeglasses. My frames cost $8 or $9. And my dad would get them outfitted with lenses, and those were the big, heavy glass lenses that left, big marks in your nose, and you were good to go. I bought these glasses not in New York or Los Angeles, not in Sydney, not in Brisbane, not in Noosa. I bought these eyeglasses in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a city that is more industrial than Adelaide, a city that is a blue-collar town. We had in Pittsburgh a place called the iTeak. The iTeak, can you imagine in Pittsburgh? These things didn't cost $8 or $9 or $10, trust me. I liked them because they were red, and red I think is my color. There's an American woman talk show host called Sally Jessy Raphael. She always wears these red glasses. I'm trying to emulate her, I think, my Sally Jessy glasses. But I looked at them, and I looked at the hinge work. They're amazingly beautiful, and they're made of magnesium. And I thought about my dad, and I said my dad would have loved these glasses. He would have loved this hinge work. And after I plunked down my more than $8, my more like 10, 50, more than 50 times $8 for them, I tried to introspect, and I said, what in God's name am I paying for? They're a lovely pair of glasses, but the ones I used to wear, I could see as well for $8 or $9 or $10. And they're nice, and they're stylish, and they're red, and they're magnesium, and great. But in point of fact, there's less material in these things than my father's glasses. These are made by robots. There's not a lot of physical labor. What could I be paying for? This is the God's honest truth. So one night, I'm giving a talk in Antwerp. And I'm talking about these glasses. They're made by Theo. I have no idea who Theo is. I'm telling the story. Guess who's in the audience? Theo. Old Theo is right in the audience. I don't expect this. Theo comes up to me. Theo is the reverse of his name is Hoyt, which makes sense now. Hoyt, he reversed it to Theo. And he comes up to me and said, wow, Rich, thank you for talking about the glasses. That was fantastic. Thank you. I love it. The nice ones. He said, can I see them? So I took out the case and I opened the case. And he said, oh, they're the red. They're our magnesium. They're lovely. He said, but you have the wrong case. Your case should read, inscribed, Theo loves you. And then I realized what I was paying for, the love of Theo. But it's not Theo's love. It's not the material. It's not the human labor power. What I'm paying for is the creative content in this eyeglass. It's the design. It's the knowledge. It's not the physical properties. And, you know, we went out to some restaurants here and we ate the food. And we went to some shops and we saw the Australian cheese and we saw the wine. It's not just in manufacturing. Everything that we buy, from these shoes to these jeans to this jacket to your handbag to your car to your bicycle, the surfboard. Think about the surfboard. The surfboard is no longer a mode of transportation honed by local craftsmen to fish and spear. It is a lifestyle and a design good. Think about the board short. Well, I heard today from my coach, guys sewing them, people sewing them on to go surfing. It is a global multi-billion-dollar industry because it's creative. It's not just about the high-tech, biotech software person. Every one of us, and when you can turn, it's Starbucks, like them or not, when you can turn a cup of coffee, Rana tells me 15,000 different ways to make a cup of coffee and charge you $5 for it. That means everything in our world has become creative. And that's the point. And that's the point in Noosa. How do all of these industries, as we bring work, as we grow the economy, as we become more prosperous, and the reason is you want to avoid what happened back home in the States. What happened in the States over the past 20 years is we grew this creative economy, we grew these high-tech companies, we grew these design industries, but our economic divide became huge. It became a creative upper class and another underclass. And you know, you see the States, you see what's happening. People ask me, is the American empire declining? You know, by the way, I just looked this up, more than 50% of Americans believe that America is in decline. Can you imagine 50% of your population saying in what was once allegedly the greatest economy in the world, we're in decline? They're scared. They're terrified because their society has become unraveled. They see rich people living in cities in New York, in LA. They see young people having a go with great educations in these high-tech fields, working, and they look like they're playing out there in the Google and the Yahoo and Apple. They look like they're having a good time. I watched the news report on Australian TV about Google tonight and the Apple phone. Look to people like my dad, like these people are playing, not working, and they're millionaires and they're billionaires. They look in the cities and see the cities filled with new immigrants who seem to them to be having an uptick. They look in the cities, they see young people going out and enjoying themselves. They look at gay and lesbian people and they say, oh my God, what about me? I'm being left behind. I don't have technical skills. I see women getting ahead. I see gay men getting ahead. I see immigrants getting ahead. And they get fearful and they get angry. And political entrepreneurs take advantage of them. You don't ever want to go there. You want to build something that's coherent and that has cohesion and that everyone can fit into and plug into. And that's the opportunity here in Noosa. Well, I could go on for a week about the nature of this challenge and how we can put together a more organized and unified society. But I want to spend a little time talking about place, which is my true passion.